Eliot Clough, David Eickholt here on a Sunday morning post-victory, post-big-time victory for the Iowa Hawkeyes, taking the win 41-3 over the Minnesota Gophers. Floyd of Rosedale staying in Iowa City. Dave, lot to talk about from this game. Of course, we had our post-game recap there at HawkeyeInsider and on YouTube, but I think, man, I said it last night when we started off the recap. It's kind of hard to find a place to start. So might as well start with taking the opening kick because I was more or less giving Iowa hell all week for that. So I'm going to take the credit for that first drive. But kick out of the back of the end zone and then just a really well drawn up, executed, methodical first drive. Almost ended earlier than it even did with the touchdown from Mark Gronowski. He had that deep shot to Seth Anderson. Where it fell incomplete. It was late. It was a long throw. You mentioned you thought, or you'd heard people say that he may have slowed up. But
I agree with that after the rewatch, by the way.
Okay. Beside the point, they finished the first drive. Really well scripted by Tim Lester. That's one of the things I'm planning on asking him about on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big confidence boost for the offense too, because I think Mark said it, like the team just has a completely different feel when they strike first. I mean, you could even go back to that Rutgers game. Like, yeah, credit to Rutgers in that game because remember, they did come right back and they scored. They had 3 straight scoring drives, but Iowa didn't get behind first. They didn't have to play from behind. So, like, yeah, Rutgers came back and tied it up, but everything just sort of flows differently. And I think as kind of everything continues to go on, man, I mean, Mark just looks more and more confident, and I think it's going to be a big plus if his knee is going to be 100%, because that's going to be post-bye week, and that's something they're really that's what he said earlier in the week that they need to focus on. But look, Kamari Moulton ran the ball well again. Mark's got to stop stealing those touchdowns. Like, Moulton deserves more touchdowns than what he's had this year. But I think when you combine the passing game, the third down conversions, the decision-making, the consistent blocking, Iowa was the more physical team out of the gate. And people say, yeah, they out Iowa and Minnesota. That's true to a degree, but I also think, and not that Iowa-ing opponents is bad by any means, Eliot, but I think that also does a disservice to the progress that Iowa's made as an offense. Like, I was looking at some stats this morning, and the scoring offenses are not updated for, like, the rankings for college football when I checked earlier this morning. You know, in Big Ten play, Iowa has the 3rd most points in the Big Ten conference in conference play. They trail Oregon and they trail, obviously, Indiana. Just Indiana is far and away above everybody. Oregon has 5 more points than Iowa. 4 of the 5 opponents are the same as Iowa's played. So Iowa is scoring at the pace of Oregon, essentially, in Big Ten play. Now, is Iowa Oregon offensively? No, I'm not saying that at all. But Iowa's being opportunistic. They're doing things the right way. And again, man, like the notion that Iowa can't score at this point, it's got to be put to the wayside. I think it's incredibly lazy analysis. And, you know, I think and I know this isn't the first drive. I know this is what we're talking about. But I think when you look back and you see Mark got a touchdown pass, that's got to be just such a relief for the offense as a whole. Again, we know it's worth the same amount of points, but to get a 29-yard pass touchdown, like, it does something. And the fact that RVZ was not really open, and Mark put the ball in a position where Vander Zee can make a play. And you know what that tells me? It's something we've talked about for the last 6 weeks, Eliot. He trusts Reese Vander Zee to go up and get those passes that he throws. That was one of the first times where it really felt like he has true confidence in his receiver. But to go back to your point, man, that first drive, I think, really set the tone. And, you know, once Iowa got up 10-0, I think you and I looked at each other and we said, you know, this could be a blowout. Like, this has blowout potential. Now, 41-3, I didn't think that, but they started out strong. And, you know, if Iowa's going to beat Oregon in 2 weeks, man, that's exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, and I was just going to look at the first drive too, because I don't think calling it, you know, methodical or what have you is enough. I mean, I want to look at this and spell it out. 7 yards on the first play. Like, that was Mark Gronowski kept it, took it for 7 yards. And to me, that was, it's not a 2 or 3 yard gain. It's second and short. That makes things a lot easier on second and third down. A lot more manageable. So let's take a look at this. So first of all, 7 yards, Pass complete, short middle to Kaden Wetjen for 22 yards. Kamari Moulton, 2 yards. Sam Phillips, 11 yards. Incomplete pass to Seth Anderson. Jacob Gill, 11 yards. Kamari Moulton rush for 21 yards. 2-yard touchdown. Like, it's just chunk. And when we see that from time to time in the middle of the game, and we've seen that especially the last few weeks when you mentioned being second in the Big Ten and scoring, their ability to like for Tim Lester to adjust, if anything, right?
Yes.
But to do that right off the bat was really telling of the game plan, I think. And I mean, maybe the mentality of the team right now and where they're at. And like you said, like that just sets such a tone for the offense and, I mean, the team as a whole going forward. They dominated from the first possession. The first possession. When was the last time we've seen Iowa do that? UMass. But like UMass.
I mean, well, to be Wisconsin.
Minnesota, Wisconsin. Well, not the first
but
possession.
that. Yeah, that's right. That's true. But let's be real, though. Wisconsin is not great. I'll tell you what, though. Again, they only lost by 14. By the way, did you see the stat about Wisconsin? I know we're not going to go deep in Wisconsin, but Wisconsin scored against Oregon last night, like 7 minutes ago. Eliot. It was their first touchdown in almost 4 hours of game time.
in Big Ten play. Probably, right? Or did they have
Iowa, did you see? I don't know if you saw my tweet this morning, but Iowa scored more points by defense and special teams in the first 19 minutes against Minnesota than Wisconsin has scored. It's doubled what Wisconsin has scored in the past 3 weeks as a total team.
That's just painful.
Iowa's first half against Minnesota has outscored Wisconsin in conference play. They only have 27 points in conference. Yeah, it's one of the crazier stats I think I've ever seen.
Going full Michael Scott meme of just
like, yeah, it's just this. Oh yeah, but I'll tell you, man, like. Again, Iowa's going to have a shot against Oregon. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to pick them at this point or anything, but like, you have to credit this team because, and I understand why people are freaking out after the loss to Iowa State. I really was, and obviously we saw the reaction after Indiana, and it was interesting too. I was talking to Scott Docterman last night as we were walking out of the press box, and I said, if Iowa ends up beating Oregon. And they end up, run the table, quote unquote. Eliot, you realize that one of the biggest what ifs in Iowa history is going to be what if Mark Gronowski had not gotten hurt against Indiana?
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm not saying it's going to be the first biggest what if, because I think what if Sean Green comes back in 2009, right? I think that needs to be up there. Obviously, we know what happens with Ricky Stanzi. I won't even bring up 2015 or get into specifics about that. But like, if Iowa goes 10-2, and again, if Iowa goes 10-2, they're in the playoff. Okay. And I'm not saying they're going 10-2, but just big picture speaking.
What if Bramer doesn't catch that bull crap tip ball?
That was a hell of a grab.
It was.
But anyway,
go back. It was the other guy. I can't remember.
Burkle.
Yes, Burkle. Yeah.
It was Burkle. But, my point is, like, people thought – I don't want to say people thought the season was over, but there was a lot of disappointment. But we've kind of known this and felt this way since Big Ten Media Day. Kirk really likes this team. And I think one of the biggest credits I can give this team, Eliot, they've gotten better every single week. Like, they have not had one step back. Now, again, the Penn State game wasn't the prettiest. They shot themselves in the foot, but they won in a different way. This team has improved every single week. And if they come out fresh out of the bye, and Oregon has a bye as well, that's, again, they're going to have a shot. And especially if it's an 11 a.m. kick, which we'll find out here probably in a couple hours. That's 9 a.m. local time for Oregon. And let's not act like Oregon's been world beaters for the past 4 games. They blew out Rutgers. They struggled against Wisconsin last night. They lost to double overtime. They beat in double overtime against Penn State. And then they really struggled in the other game. Like, this is not an unbeatable football team. The talent is there. But
especially
Iowa, yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, like, especially with Iowa improving every single week. But we know how Iowa comes out of the bye week at times. And that's kind of my big concern, way too early concern. But they're continuing to show different elements. And I need to see Iowa's defense against, Oregon and USC, because USC's offense is crazy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But Iowa's defense, man, like I can't give Phil Parker enough credit, because there's no reason why they should be as good as they've been this year statistically. Absolutely zero.
The portal wins in Jonah Pace and Bryce Hawthorne. That's where I start in terms of personnel, because this defensive line would not be near as good without those guys up front. And that isn't statistically, that isn't like, oh my gosh, they're racking up sacks. Every single position on that defensive line is incredibly important with the two-gap system. So you go there. Then you go to Cohen Entringer and his experience through special teams and things like that. And then you go to Jaden Montgomery, because he has been freaking awesome in the middle of the defense the last few weeks in replacing Jaden Harrell. And then you go to TJ Hall, who has elevated his game. And then you go to Deshaun Lee, who isn't getting really that picked on like we maybe would have expected, like he was last year. And
even 4 weeks ago. I mean, even 3 weeks ago, like, Lee's played really good football over the last 2 weeks. Not that he was ever bad before, but like, what it's like when you have an elite corner on one side.
Yep.
Even if the other player is really good, they're always going to target that other player.
Exactly. And Xavier Wampa has been awesome. That move to free safety, I think that really, really fits him. I mean, we were hearing about that in the spring. We heard about it in fall camp. This is what makes sense for him. And Zach Lutmer. I don't know how I could forget Zach Lutmer. I think we're seeing him ascend to stardom in front of our eyes. That pick
is he the best defensive player on Iowa? There's a case, man.
I think I got to go TJ Hall right now.
That's the other. I mean, I'd go between them too, but Lutmer's made a case, man. Like, and I think Lutmer's more critical in the run game, and I think that's kind of why I give Lutmer the edge. But at the same time, like, Hall's been really, really good. Lutmer, by the way, really quick, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, but I thought Lutmer was getting tackled the 1 again. Or like the 3 again. I thought it was going to be like the 3rd straight week of Iowa getting inside the 5-yard line. And I'm like, of course, this is how the streak would end.
Yeah. But you might have to say Lutmer just by way of the position that he plays, because Cash is just so important and you do so many things at that position. You have to be such an athlete. You have to be so good in run support, in coverage. You have to cover tight ends. Like, you just have to be so versatile. But TJ Hall has just reached that elite corner level where I think I still have to defer to him. And Max Llewellyn's still got to be up there, man. He is a terror to deal with off the edge. And Cohen's been really good. Obviously, that penalty, I mean, I would like to ask him about that here coming up, because I would assume he thought that guy who he hit caught the ball. This was not.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Yes.
Cohen Entringer, Minnesota Twitter is all over it, saying he's a dirty player and all this. It's like, okay, you very clearly know nothing about Cohen Entringer.
He's like the A+ human being. And I hate to use this phrase, but it's the type of guy you want your daughter to date.
Yes.
Like, he's just a super good dude who is loyal to like everything around him, and he just treats everybody with respect all the time. Like, Cohen's a great, great dude. So my opinion of it, and it absolutely was penalty. So I tweeted that's not targeting the other day, and I still stand by it was not targeting, by the way. It was a cheap shot. It was a cheap shot. It was something that shouldn't have happened, but like, again, based on the way the play was and where it looked like the ball was going, Cohen absolutely thought that guy caught the ball. And he just put his head down because, those bang, bang plays, especially over the middle, guys want to deliver big hits, and they have to do it right away. Otherwise, the guy catches the ball and has a chance to actually retain possession, hold on to it. He doesn't want that to happen. That would have been a deep gain for Minnesota. So he hit him. Again, I hope the guy's all right. It was a cheap hit. It was not ill-intended. There was no ill will behind it.
Right. And honestly, like semantics maybe, but I wouldn't even call it a cheap hit. I would call it a cheap shot. I would call it a penalty and an inadvertent play. You know, if it was on purpose, I would probably refer to it as a cheap shot. But sorry. Anyway, and I tweeted that's not targeting too. I thought it was on Lutmer. Both of the guys hit him with their shoulder.
Honestly, so did I until I saw.
Yeah.
When I tweeted that, then they announced who it was on. I'm like, oh, what? Because even the cameraman, they had to use a secondary camera because they started to show it, and then they flipped to the other camera on CBS. By the way, shout out CBS. I thought the broadcast is great.
You're good company. You got good company man there, Dave.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's Nestler. I mean,
yeah, you can't complain. Even in a 41-3, victory, the announcement or the announcers were awesome. Yeah, those guys are goated.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's unfortunate for Cohen, and I really hope, like, I don't want to say nobody's digging into like how good of a dude he is, and that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. Like, Cohen I guarantee you Cohen probably apologized after it happened. Like,
probably trying to find him after the game, and
I'm not going to be surprised whatsoever. I don't think this will happen. If it keeps blowing up as Twitter and like Instagram or something, I'm not going to be surprised if Cohen puts like, "Hey, like I talked to him. I'm sorry."
Yeah,
but like I don't think it's necessary either. I really don't. It was just unfortunate what happened. So
okay,
but like you talked about how there was dominant from the start to finish. Eliot, like keep in mind. This is how insane the game. First of all, Iowa held them under 100 yards for most of the game until garbage time. They had no drive longer than 20 yards until they got the field goal with 3 seconds left in the third quarter. Iowa, at the end of the first quarter, Iowa had 17 points. Minnesota had 12 total yards. Iowa was up 17-0 before I think they ran their fifth play from scrimmage. Like, it was right when they got 17-0, everybody in the press box was like, all right, running clock, game's over. Like, Iowa was never going to blow that game. But, again, I do think PJ Fleck's got some Kirk Ferentz demons, and it just feels like every time Iowa plays Minnesota, again, I know this could be clipped or taken out of context. Don't you think they just come out extra juiced? Like, every freaking time Iowa plays Minnesota. I don't know what their prep week's like. I don't know what they're saying. I assume it's very similar to like what Minnesota does for Nebraska, because now Minnesota dominates Nebraska every single year. They've won 6 straight. It was the exact opposite of the Minnesota team that they saw against Nebraska. But, yeah, Minnesota wasn't good. I thought PJ Fleck was kind of weird in his postgame. Like, he gave a ton of credit to Iowa. Then he goes, even against Ohio State, our team was ready to play, but Ohio State's just really freaking good. I didn't see that was the case in this game. Like, he said something along those lines, and I'm sitting there like, look, I'm not saying Iowa's Ohio State by any means, but it wasn't even like self-inflicted things that Minnesota did outside of the pick 6.
Yeah.
And like Minnesota special teams have been garbage for years.
Right.
Like, that's just who they are. That's not shooting themselves in the foot. That's just not developing or creating a system that fosters good special teams. There's a difference there, right? Like Iowa, they've been undisciplined at times this year, but like that was probably one of their better special teams games they played. But they foster that and encourage good special teams play. But it just seems like you talk about complimentary football and everything, Eliot. This is exactly what you wanted to see out of Iowa going into the bye week. The question is, will the momentum hold on through the bye week? By the way, quick update, Bo Stevens is anticipated to play against Oregon. I know people were concerned about that. Kirk said if it was life or death, he could have gone back out there. And he was right. I thought Leighton Jones held his own. I think that's going to be a really good experience for him because he's going to be a dude next year.
He's going to start next year. I think the run game did start to struggle a bit after Bo left. Leighton, I mean, but again, I mean, you still win 41-3, and Leighton got some good experience. So I'm not. That's just an observation. Stevens, I did see him trying to run up and down the sideline. Looked like probably an ankle. We'll see what that looks like going forward. But yeah, and Kamari just continues to be like this close to making a big play. I mean, every game, one of these days he's going to get it. Mark Gronowski up to 11 touchdowns. You mentioned Reese. I wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah.
That ball, like you said, a good ball because of who the receiver was. Like, you can't throw that ball to Sam Phillips. It's just physical attributions. It's not that Sam Phillips can't make that play. It's just a lot harder for Sam Phillips to make that play because he's not 6'5" and 200 plus pounds. But that ball to Reese was, and like it was an incredible catch. Maybe I was a little dramatic when it happened, but it was a decent. I mean, it was a good ball because of who the receiver was. Reese makes the catch. It's on John Nestor, who unfortunately got hurt at the end of the game. Of course, you hope he's okay, but makes the catch on John Nestor. Kaden Wetjen cooked John Nestor on an out route that he took up the sideline on their second drive too, where he very nearly scored. And Nestor's largely been good this season, but not yesterday. And I don't, I know a lot of the guys on the team like him a lot and are friends with him. So I don't know that. Mark said something about it after the game, said it was on a former teammate, which is good. But
I was a little bit surprised Mark said that too.
I was too. Mark doesn't seem like the guy to say something like that.
Mark doesn't talk like that.
But John led the team out to start the game, which I thought was ballsy.
I loved it. I thought it was cool.
Kinnick was booing. Then they boo for every away team that runs out. But yeah, that was a little something extra to it. Also, speaking of Kinnick, I think it was in the first quarter, Iowa was up either 10-0 or 17-0. And camera found a guy that was wearing "It Wasn't a Fair Catch" shirt, and Kinnick erupted, which was really funny. Yeah. But there was something else I was going to mention. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, Kaden Wetjen, in the punt return, rowing the boat in the end zone, which was funny. We were both hoping he was going to do like an invalid fair catch signal or do.
I wanted it so bad.
Yeah. And he almost called.
I said all week.
Yeah. He said he almost called for a fair catch in the post game, and you could go back and watch it. He's running, and he goes, and then he catches it and runs. Hell of a play. And I mean, like, we talk about complimentary football, all three phases, really impressive. Really, really impressive. Like Reese, I don't think Reese Dakin had a particularly good day.
No, that was the only downside.
But yeah, and like the second half, but like Kirk's just like, let's get the hell out of here. That's how Kirk operates in the second half when they're up that amount at halftime. Jeremy Hecklinski
scored. You wish they could have worked on the passing game more, and they kept the foot on the gas. I think that's that's a personal preference, and that's just not what Iowa does. I know some people probably feel the same way as me, but you kind of want to continue to see the offense develop, especially in the passing game. My one gripe with Kirk was he left Gronowski in way too long.
Way too long.
Some of the other guys way too long. Yeah. I didn't like that. I thought it was kind of funny though. They put in the second string defense and they kept the first string offense for one more. And maybe I'm reading into semantics here, Eliot, but I thought that was kind of a big FU. You'd be like, look, your stars can't score on my backup defense, but we're going to leave the starting offense out there. Again, I could be pulling something out of thin air, but like I looked at you right when that happened. I said, is this what he's doing right now?
Yeah. That's definitely a possibility. Don't want to rule that out. Second team defense was good. Cam Buffington with an interception and a PBU. I think we've got a dude on our hand.
Day one. I loved Cam Buffington for like ever since he committed to Iowa. I think the dude's an absolute demon. I think he's a freak.
We've got a dude on our hands. Yosei Epinesa mixing it up a little bit on the second or the first level of the defense. I think he is one game away from burning his red shirt, possibly.
He's got one more.
Oh, does he? Okay, so you want to be careful with that, because I mean, no need if that's, but I don't know, and not a huge deal, because who knows if he's even going to be around for 4 years. Like once he reaches his physical peak, it's.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Like, he has potential to dip early. And another guy that might not be, by the way, Zach Lutmer might have a decision to make next year. Like, he's that good to me. He's that good to me. But by the way, Jose Epinesa got the fourth and one stop to end the game before Iowa got the ball back with 40 seconds left. Yeah, so I mean, it was funny because everybody erupted, and then they made the name announcement because people are, the casual fan are still trying to figure out numbers and stuff. Right when they said Jose Epinesa, the place went freaking nuts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of everybody who was still left.
Epi was probably like tearing up in his seat, which is,
sure.
We know Epi. Epi is just an awesome dude, outstanding family.
Yes. And you said it. I think Mark Gronowski was in too long. First team offense was in too long. But Jeremy Hecklinski scores his first collegiate touchdown. Decided to keep it. Fakes the throw to the outside and runs it in for a touchdown. Potentially the future. Of course, we're going to be following he and Hank Brown in the spring and see if anything happens there in terms of the portal, or if in terms of they go and get another guy, or who wins that battle. But excuse me. But really interesting and cool to see him get some extended snaps, because he finally got put in with 8 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go.
He only threw one pass for 6 yards, but I'll tell you what, he does not throw a tight spiral, and I think that's kind of my big gripe with him. But I'll tell you, dude's fast. He's faster than I thought. I know, again, 6 yard touchdown, but when he kind of burst up the field and got in the end zone, I remember I looked at you and I'm like, look, I knew he was decent, but I did not realize he had a little bit of top end speed to him.
Yeah, a little bit of burst. So cool to see some mobility, and of course we hear about his swagger and moxie and all that stuff.
And all that.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, we got a couple of minutes. I mentioned that I want to ask Tim Lester about his scripting of plays and such. Is there anything you want to ask him about? Ask Phil Parker about? Ask LeVar Woods about? This coming week that is front of mind at this moment in time?
I mean, I'm going to ask Tim Lester about the constant improvement. Because again, with all these missing pieces and moving parts, I'll tell you what, the first front of mind, again, not to nitpick, but the tight end's just not a factor right now at all. So I want to ask him about some of the younger tight ends, his approach to it. Not that it's a wash this year by any means. They get Aston Stranga back next year, they've talked about. But, at some point, if a defense attacks you the right way, and if for some reason if Iowa's offensive line has a bad day, does Iowa feel like they have a tight end that they can go out and throw a pass to on a 3rd and 12? DJ Bonamy's done, made a couple nice grabs this year. But, don't you think, Eliot, that's kind of been the most – I don't want to say the most stunning development, because that was kind of my big red flag going into the year. But I don't even think they've been particularly great in the run block either. I liked Burt and some of his blocks yesterday. I would have liked to see Thomas Meyer more, because I think he can be an absolute dude. But Iowa I'm just curious if he can find a way to make the tight ends be a relevant threat at this point in the year. Because again, you realize Iowa's only had 2 tight end touchdowns in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would not shock me if they feel the need to dip into the portal and grab a tight end.
They should.
Maybe a small school guy that has potential to be impactful. But then again, Thomas Meyer, guy who's on the way up, he is on the travel squad, and was mentioned by Kirk Ferentz. Michael Burt plays yesterday. DJ Bonamy, I don't think played. I didn't see him if he did. He was.
I don't think he did.
But he's a guy that I think is on an upward trajectory. We can't forget that he's just a redshirt freshman.
I was going to say he needs a year or two. I think one more big offseason development is going to be good. I see the tools. The tools are evident. But again, this is a former walk-on, by the way, who's put on 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
He has the work ethic, he has the drive, but he needs to fine-tune some things.
Got to cook a little bit, as George Barnett likes to say about his offensive linemen. But that and was a quarterback in high school, and they brought him in and had him figure it out.
Yeah.
So
yep, exactly.
Pretty impressive what he's done to this point. I think we need to give him credit for that too. I think when you mentioned Tim Lester, I don't think of immediate questions for Phil Parker because Tim Lester's better with the media.
Well, Phil, here's what I'd say about Phil. My thing is the last 3 weeks, as far as generating turnovers and why he's dialing up more pressure from safeties and linebacker spots than he really ever has been. This is not a defense that sits back in coverage anymore. Like they do at times, but I've never seen Phil Parker dial up this sort of pressure. And this is with an experienced defensive line. I think he sees opportunity, especially against young quarterbacks. And Phil Parker is going out to kill rather than letting the freshmen make their own mistakes.
If it's the walk-on quarterback that played last night for Oregon, and I meant to mention this early. I mean, you said you thought Dante Moore broke his nose. We're not really sure.
Did you see how much blood was like leaking out?
I did see that. Yeah.
Like,
so we're not really sure what that's going to look like. But if it is that
walk-on, see if they say anything last night.
Okay. If it is that walk-on quarterback, we're going to be having a serious conversation about Iowa having a really nice opportunity to beat a good Oregon team, like walk-on quarterback or not. Like they've got the personnel. It's similar to what we said about Penn State, except for Oregon's won some games this year at Big Ten. So he's
going
really
to be good. Landing said post-game that Moore's going to be good to go. I thought that was the case, but I wanted to get a quote.
He's made some really nice throws this year. Either way, college football and playoff implications going into this weekend or the following weekend. And then USC on the road after that. So that'll be really interesting. But the one thing I was going to mention about Lester is I wouldn't consider the offense fully rebuilt by any means because of the passing. And they still need guys, right? Like the personnel still isn't top tier in the Big Ten by any means.
Outside
running back, and
they're deep at running back, man.
In offense,
in offense, like I think George Barnett would be up for like a position coach of the year. I'm not talking about just Iowa. I'm talking like if there's a Big Ten conference award for it, like compared to the noise that was around him a few years ago, I think people realized what he had to work with, but now he got his recruits and his development. Like Barnett's been a monster for Iowa.
Just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, people were ripping him. And that was still residual last year. People talking about how bad the offensive line was when it was really good.
And again, I'm not mad at them for it because again, we all knew that.
Yeah.
But that was the offense as a whole, right? But again, like how many times did Barnett and Kirk both talk about, like they were forced to play guys earlier than was fair to them. I mean, they brought Connor Colby.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew Colby was good coming out of high school. Weren't you a little concerned when he was the one playing as a true freshman?
Yeah.
I mean, again, with respect to him, I was because I thought he needed a year.
Yep.
So you got to give him a lot. I mean, this is going to be I think they should win the Joe Moore Award. I think they're going to be at least in the final. They're going to be a finalist for the award.
Yep.
And they should
if not, if they don't win. My question for Tim Lester, to revert back to that, would be what's been the most difficult part so far in these 2 years in rebuilding this offense? And I think the true question or the true answer would be revitalizing the personnel and the turnover in the quarterback room. I don't know that he's going to say that, but I'm going to be really intrigued as to what his response will be.
Yeah.
Because there's been plenty of turnover in that quarterback room, and led by him. Like Brian Ferentz wouldn't have done that. Marco Lainez would still be on this roster. He would not be at Elon. Deacon Hill would probably still be around for all we know. Would not be at Utah Tech. So quite a few changes there by Tim Lester. That's all for me.
let me throw this back at you. What I want to ask him, and I'm going to phrase it better than I'm going to put it on this podcast. How is there any real possibility they go back to a quarterback who's not mobile? Like, after watching what Mark Gronowski's done this year, you cannot go back to a pocket present sitting quarterback with this offense.
No.
And again, I'm not saying you need a Marco. I'm not saying you need a Mark Gronowski type, but you can't possibly go back to a guy that, you know, takes forever to escape the pocket or can get chased down by a 295 pound tackle, right? You have to have, like, that's why I like seeing Hecklinski out there. I like seeing that a lot. You have, like, do you even go out and recruit a pocket passer anymore? I just don't see the argument of how you go back to that after what you've seen this year from Mark. And again, I'm not saying you need shit. He might have 14, 15 rushing touchdowns this year. He might have more than that, seriously, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
But you can't look at that and be like, oh, yeah, we're going to get a guy that runs a 4.95 or a 5-second 40.
Yeah.
It looks like he's running in quicksand or like with cement blocks around his ankles.
I got one more, and then we got to get out of here because I got to get to church this morning. What happened to slow mesh?
I'm so sad.
We got 2 plays against Iowa State. Bring it out against the Ducks. That's all I got. Okay.
I wish Hecklinski could have ran it.
Yeah, that would have been sweet.
That would have been a lot of fun. So I'm having my column up in a little bit. Finishing it up now. I know Sean has Pro Football Focus up. We're gonna have some more stuff up. Then basketball starts this week. I know we're gonna do a big basketball podcast this week. We're gonna be locked in on that. So as always, stay tuned, stay locked into HawkeyeInsider.com, and we will talk to you in a couple days.